Monday, the National Urban League will release its annual State of Black America report, one of the most highly anticipated benchmarks for racial equality in America. This year's report focuses on recent efforts to suppress the black vote and how to combat it. Joining me now is President and CEO of the National Urban League, Marc Morial. Marc, I know you have embargoed the report till Monday morning, but give me some of the highlights that we can expect, particularly as we talk in this political season, because one of the things I noted on your release is that in 2000, 76% of the people that voted were white, and in the last election, we project in 20, it'll be down to 66%. So the value of non-white voters and black voters have increased. Explain to me where we are in our state of black America and the state as is juxtaposed with the state of the country in terms of
Well, first of all, Reverend, thank you for having me, and I'm proud to be first on Politics Nation to discuss this year's State of Black America report. Let me tell you the most compelling news. We highlight in this report what I call the terrible trio of voter suppression. One, the Supreme Court and its anti-democratic decisions in Shelby and Husted and Citizens United. Number two, state legislatures across America, 40 plus, that have engaged in outright efforts to make it more difficult for people, particularly people of color, to vote by eliminating early voting, by creating voter ID requirements, by putting clamps on those that want to register people to vote, like the National Action Network, the NAACP, or the League of Women Voters. And then number three, and this is most compelling, it's the Russian Federation and its Internet Research Agency. The foreign interference was designed. Mueller has not explicitly talked about this. The Senate Intelligence Committee has only mentioned it, to inject racial division in the United States of America. We will show on Monday some of the posts and some of the diabolical means used by the Russians to suppress the African-American vote. They created fake personalities wearing, if you will, a Black Lives Matter mask, who were all over the internet encouraging people not to vote. They ran an advertising campaign directed at African Americans, indicating to them that African Americans could vote from home by texting a particular number. The role of Russia in suppressing the African American vote was significant. It was far-ranging. And our report and our research partner, the German Marshall Fund, and the Brennan Center, we're going to expose it all at the National Press Club on Monday morning.
So there are many of the efforts we saw on social media and other things telling blacks don't vote, telling blacks that it doesn't make sense, and giving misinformation. Was actually Russia using that to try and suppress the black vote?
The Russians were actively involved. 126 million people were reached by Russians on Facebook, 73 million engagements, 1,000 videos posted. They created a person by the name of Louisa Haynes, who was a Black Lives Matter activist, a woke sister, if you will, who engaged in a long, long colloquy through social media, telling African Americans not to vote, telling African Americans that all Democratic politicians were sellouts. It was an orchestrated, diabolical, and sinister campaign. And to this point, why investigators, why the Mueller report, why no one has squarely said that what the Russians wanted to do was suppress the African American vote. The evidence is significant, the evidence is overwhelming, and the evidence is clear. And I think we've got to expose it because it remains a clear and present threat to in 2020.
Absolutely, as we go in. And I think it is mentioned briefly in the report, but it has not really been elaborated on. So you're going to blow the lid off on Monday on this, and I think it is extremely important. The ignoring of our community, I noted for the last several weeks how the president had not even said anything about the church burnings in Louisiana. Finally, Vice President Pence went down the other day to Louisiana, where you're from, but that was 3 or 4 weeks later, and I salute him for doing it. But, I mean, really, it took 3 or 4 weeks to even
from the president. We expect from the president, we expect from the leader and the commander-in-chief of the country an immediate response when a hate crime takes place. It's important for healing. It's important because it is the moral role of the presidency that we have come to certainly expect. And the rise in hate crimes, the efforts to suppress the African-American vote, the assaults on people of color, is just something we have to intelligently, people of goodwill have to intelligently stand up to in America today.
So you're putting up a giant warning sign that we need to be careful of where we're going in this 2020 election, because the evidence of what the Russians did and everybody that's talking grassroots and all may really be guided by outside forces to really suppress our vote.
And we need our intelligence agencies, our law enforcement agencies, to take a strong stand against foreign interference in the 2020 election cycle, to take an unambiguous stand. If we need an investigator, if we need a special prosecutor, if we need a national commission, whatever we need, it's crucial. And I look forward to discussing this report more on Monday. And tune in, watch it on live stream.